havoc can one monster create on this earth?
Grab your bags and say goodbye.
But it wasn't. I've never been. And that's how I want her to be remembered.
The baby was found in a garbage dump and had been harmed by animals.
The reality TV genre runs on an illusion, and it's a very specific, very profitable one. The idea that there is a line between the show and real life, and that the producers control exactly where it is drawn. We watch ordinary people placed in extraordinary artificial pressure cookers, an island, a locked house, a stage, a desert, and we enjoy it because we believe on some level that there is a safety net. We believe the camera acts as a shield that no matter how high the emotions run, no matter how hungry or angry or desperate the contestants get, the machinery of TV will eventually step in and say, cut. The producers are the adults in the room, the danger is just a set piece. But the machinery is not built to protect people, it is built to extract content from them. It is an engine that takes human vulnerability and refines it into ratings. And sometimes the pressure cooker explodes. Sometimes the illusion of control shatters entirely and real irreversible life violently intrudes on the broadcast. The safety net fails or worse. You realize there was never a safety net to begin with. Today we are looking at 7 of those times, 7 moments, when the format pushed too far, the facade dropped, and the camera captured the exact second the entertainment ended, and the tragedy began.
He doesn't even know he's on television.
In January 1998, a Japanese comedian named Tomoaki Hamatsu, nicknamed Nasubi, or Eggplant, because of the long shape of his face, went to an audition for a massive variety show called Susunu Denpa Shonen. He was 22 years old. He wanted to be famous. He was told he had won a job on a news segment, and the producers told him to follow them. They did not take him to a studio. They took him to a tiny, empty one-room apartment in Tokyo. Once he was inside, they instructed him to take off all of his clothes. They took his garments, they took his wallet, they took his phone, and they locked the door behind him from the outside. His task was explained to him, and it was insane. He was given a massive stack of magazines, a radio, and a low table. He had to enter mail-in sweepstakes to win absolutely everything he needed to survive. Food, clothing, appliances, water, all of it had to be won through random magazine lotteries. He was told he had to stay in that room until the total monetary value of his winnings reached 1 million yen. Only then could he leave. What Nasubi did not know, and what the producers deliberately kept from him, was that the apartment was rigged with hidden cameras. They told him they might use some of the footage later if he succeeded. In reality, they were streaming his naked, starving isolation to the Japanese public 24 hours a day and packaging the highlights into a primetime Sunday night broadcast.
ここどこかわかる？
今どこわかる?
The footage of this year is deeply, viscerally uncomfortable to watch now. For the first few weeks, Nasubi won nothing. He had no food, he drank tap water, he lost vast amounts of weight, his ribs pressing sharply against his skin. When he finally won his first food item, it was sugary jelly. Later, he survived for weeks entirely on dog food that he won in a pet sweepstakes. As the months dragged on, you can watch a human being slowly lose his grip on reality. His hair grew long and wild, his fingernails curled, he stopped speaking normally, spending his days meticulously, obsessively filling out hundreds of postcards in total deafening silence. When a bag of rice or a plush toy arrived at his door, he would scream and cry in a state of primal, unhinged joy. He started having conversations with a stuffed animal he won. He was entirely disconnected from the human race, existing only to fill out postcards. And the show did not treat this as a psychological horror. It treated it as a sitcom. The producers added a bouncy, cheerful soundtrack. They edited his despair for comedic timing. Because he was completely naked the entire time, the editors added a little cartoon eggplant graphic to cover his genitals, bouncing around the screen as he moved. They added laugh tracks to his hunger. When he finally painstakingly won enough to reach his goal of 1 million yen, after 15 agonizing months of solitary confinement, he thought it was over. The producers came into the room, they blindfolded him, they put him in a shirt and pants, and they drove him away. But they didn't take him home. They took him to another empty room, this time in South Korea, took his clothes again, and told him he had to win his ticket back to Japan. It took him several more months. When it was finally truly over, they blindfolded him one last time. They walked him into a room and removed the blindfold. Nasubi looked around, confused, and then the walls of the room literally fell away. He wasn't in an apartment. He was in the middle of a massive stage in front of a live studio audience. Millions more watching at home. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers. Nasubi, completely institutionalized by over a year of extreme isolation, did the only thing his broken brain knew how to do. He instinctively reached up, pulled his clothes off, and stood completely naked in front of millions of people, because for a year and a half, naked isolation was the only reality he understood. He didn't know he was the most famous man in Japan. He just knew the walls had vanished. The show found a young man, locked him in a box, stripped him of his humanity, and turned his psychological unraveling into a national punchline. The worst part isn't even that the producers did it. The worst part is that 17 million people tuned in every Sunday to laugh at a man, slowly losing his mind, and nobody saw a single problem with it until it was over. For 14 years, The Jeremy Kyle Show was a titan of British television. It was a daytime talk show that operated exactly like a Roman Colosseum. The format was incredibly rigid, designed entirely around conflict. The producers would bring out working-class people, place them on a stage, accuse them of infidelity, theft, or addiction, and let the host, Jeremy Kyle, shout at them.
Why can't I get this, that, and the other? It's not fair. This country's going to pot fight.
Hang on a minute.
Kyle would pace the stage, pointing his finger, screaming insults, while a live studio audience booed, hissed, and bayed for blood. The ultimate weapon of the show, the engine that made the whole thing run, was the lie detector, the polygraph test. It was presented to the audience and the guests as an absolute, flawless scientific truth, a magical machine that could perfectly separate the liars from the honest. It is well documented that it is not. Courts of law do not allow polygraphs as definitive proof because they are notoriously unreliable. They do not measure truth, they measure stress, heart rate, and perspiration. If you are terrified, the machine thinks you are lying, but daytime, TV doesn't care about the rules of evidence. It cares about the gasp. It cares about the moment. The host opens an envelope and declares someone a liar. In May 2019, a 63-year-old grandfather named Steve Diamond went on the show. He was desperate. His relationship with his fiancée, Jane, was falling apart because she suspected he had been unfaithful. Steve Diamond had been diagnosed with depression. He was emotionally fragile.
I just lied to her for no reason.
Still to this day?
No. Since we split up, we got back together, I've never lied once to her.
But he believed, truly believed, that if he went on television and took the lie detector test, the machine would prove his innocence and save his relationship. He wanted the machine to clear his name. He failed the test. The footage of that episode has never been broadcast to the public, and it never will be. But the accounts from the crew and the people in the room paint a grim, devastating picture. The host mocked him. The audience jeered and laughed at him. Diamond collapsed to his knees on the stage, crying uncontrollably. He insisted the machine was wrong. He insisted he was innocent.
Jeremy Kyle lie detector and gets called a liar and my test's wrong, yeah?
I swear to God, I'll swear on anything.
But the machinery of the show did what it always did. It didn't listen to him. It extracted the maximum amount of humiliation, wrapped it in a moralistic bow, declared him a cheat, and sent the broken man home. He returned to his hotel room. His fiancée ended the relationship based on the results of the show. His world completely collapsed 7 days after the recording. Steve Diamond was found dead in his room. He took his own life. The public backlash was instantaneous, and it was overwhelming. The show was permanently cancelled within days, ripped from the schedule entirely. A parliamentary inquiry was launched into reality TV's duty of care, hauling the executives into hearings to explain how they treated their guests. But the truly haunting thing is looking back at the 14 years prior. The show had not made an error with Steve Diamond. The show had functioned exactly as it was designed to. It had been doing this exact thing to thousands of people 5 days a week for over a decade. It had monetized the destruction of relationships and the public shaming of vulnerable people. It weaponized a flawed machine to tear families apart for entertainment. It only stopped because, this time, the human cost couldn't be contained to the commercial break.
embarrassed to be Australian.
There is a hubris in TV production, a deep, unspoken belief that because you are holding a camera, you are somehow immune to the rules of the environment you're walking into. There is a sense that the production crew is protected by an invisible force field, that the danger is just a set piece provided for the narrative. In 2012, an Australian documentary reality series called Go Back to Where You Came From decided to test this hubris to its absolute breaking point. The premise of the show was socially ambitious. It took ordinary Australians with strong, often fiercely anti-immigration views and forced them to physically trace the exact perilous journeys taken by refugees seeking asylum in Australia. It is a noble idea on paper, walk a mile in their shoes. But in their second season, the producers decided that to make the experience truly authentic, they needed to escalate the danger. They needed to drop their contestants into an active, breathing war zone. They took them to Syria, right into the middle of a brutal, chaotic civil war. The footage from this episode does not look like reality TV. It doesn't even look like a documentary. It looks like raw combat footage. The contestants, dressed in heavy blue flak jackets and Kevlar helmets, are being escorted by armed guards near the front line. You can hear the tension in the air and then the unmistakable, terrifying sound of incoming mortar fire.
Stay down below this wall. We're here.
The camera violently shakes, the audio clips as heavy gunfire erupts all around them. It is not distant, it is right on top of them. The contestants are screaming in genuine terror. They are being shoved aggressively against concrete walls by their security detail, who are screaming at them to get their heads down, to run for their lives. The group is forced to sprint through the rubble as bullets hit the buildings around them. ISIS militants were actively shooting at their position. Nobody was killed, but watching the footage, you realize you're watching the exact moment the producers lost control of their own show. You can see it in the eyes of the contestants, huddled in the dirt, hyperventilating. The camera wasn't a shield anymore. The bullets whistling past their heads did not know they were filming an educational reality show for an Australian broadcaster. The artillery didn't care about their story arcs.
Stay down, eh?
Coming in?
They're coming towards us. They're coming towards us.
The show wanted the aesthetic of danger to teach a lesson to its cast and its audience. It wanted to manufacture a profound realization. Instead, it almost got a mass casualty event. It is a terrifying testament to what happens when the artificial bubble of reality TV tries to touch actual uncontrolled war. The producers gambled the lives of ordinary citizens for a compelling hour of TV, and they won that gamble by mere inches.
I wouldn't feel safe sending my 8-year-old child away alone by themselves.
In 2007, the CBS network greenlit a show called Kid Nation. The premise was essentially a televised Lord of the Flies social experiment. Take 40 children ranging from 8 to 15 years old, drop them into an abandoned, dusty pioneer ghost town in the middle of the New Mexico desert, and tell them to build a functioning society.
Just 40 kids with a chance to build their own society.
There were no parents allowed. There was no adult supervision allowed on camera. Just children. They had to cook their own meals, clean their own outhouses, run their own businesses, chop wood, haul water, and establish a government.
We have corn and tomatoes, good for stews, but not much else. Tomato juice, baked beans. I hate these, they're disgusting.
To get around the incredibly strict child labor laws in the United States, laws that dictate how many hours a child actor can work, when they must have school, and what hazards they can be exposed to. The producers used a terrifying legal loophole. They legally classified the production not as a TV set, but as a summer camp, because it was a camp. The kids could be filmed 24 hours a day, performing intense physical labor in the desert heat.
I don't see any food. No food. It looks like all our laundry and all our water is frozen in.
I think the town definitely really needs some law and order because the people are just doing whatever they want, whenever they want.
The entire show is a masterclass in reckless endangerment. If you watch the footage now, it induces anxiety. You have 10-year-old kids cooking with massive vats of boiling hot grease. You have children wielding large kitchen knives. You have small kids hauling heavy wooden wagons that weigh hundreds of pounds. But the moment that truly broke the facade of safety happened off-camera, though its aftermath is heavily documented and admitted to by the network. A group of children were wandering around the set and found what looked like a bottle of soda left carelessly on a table. One of the children picked it up and drank it. It was not soda, it was industrial bleach. The child instantly suffered a severe chemical burn. They had to have their throat medically flushed on set, and by sheer unbelievable luck, they did not suffer permanent life-threatening damage. In a separate incident, a child had boiling grease splash onto her face while cooking, causing severe burns. The state of New Mexico eventually investigated the production, responding to furious complaints from the parents about the contracts they signed and the conditions their children endured. The show was quietly cancelled after one season, buried deep in the CBS archives, and is rarely spoken of again by the network.
Is this exploiting minors for the sake of entertaining the American public? My guest, child psychologist Dr. Susan Bartell.
Kid Nation is the American television machine operating at its absolute most arrogant. It looked at 40 children, looked at the extreme physical and psychological risks of abandoning them in a harsh desert environment, and decided the ratings would be worth the legal liability. They built a world without rules and were somehow shocked when children actually got hurt.
A controversial showman who mixes Islam and entertainment.
The talent show, the game show, the telethon, they all speak a very specific, shared language. It is the language of the prize. The mechanics of it are deeply ingrained in us as viewers. The host builds the tension, the lights flash, the music swells, and a curtain is pulled back to reveal a TV, a car, or a paid vacation. We understand the transaction, but in 2013, during the holy month of Ramadan, a live TV broadcast took this language, this cold transactional broadcast logic, and applied it to a human life. The show was called Aman Ramazan, broadcast in Pakistan and hosted by the late Amir Liaquat Hussain. It was a massive, sprawling marathon TV event. It blended religious discussion and charitable appeals with high-energy, chaotic game show giveaways. The studio was packed with hundreds of people.
500 people make up this live studio audience for a marathon 7-hour Ramadan special program.
The energy was electric, loud, and relentless. Throughout the broadcast, the host would hand out motorcycles, microwaves, and washing machines to ecstatic audience members. And then during a broadcast in July of that year, the host announced another prize, but he did not point to a washing machine. He was joined on stage by Ramzan Shipa, the head of the Shipa Welfare Association, a prominent charity organization. Shipa handed the host a real living abandoned infant. The baby had been found entirely alone, left in the garbage of the city.
Our team finds babies abandoned on the street, in garbage bins, some of them dead, others mauled by animals. So why not ensure the baby is kept alive and gets a good home? We didn't just give the baby away.
Live on television with the cameras rolling, the bright studio lights glaring, and the crowd watching, the host took the infant in his arms. He walked through the audience and handed the baby over to a pre-vetted childless couple sitting in the front row. The man immediately broke down in tears. The woman gently held the child, overwhelmed with emotion. The host smiled, the crowd applauded, and the broadcast rolled on. The welfare organization fiercely defended the segment. They stated that the couples had been thoroughly vetted over a long period, and they argued that the alternative for these abandoned babies was often death on the streets or in the trash. They argued that they were saving lives and giving these children loving homes, and in a vacuum, finding a loving home for an abandoned child is a beautiful, necessary thing.
So we took these children from the garbage, from the trash, and delivered to the needy people, needy parents.
But the visual of it, the sheer jarring, terrifying spectacle of how it was presented, sparked an immediate, horrified reaction worldwide. Seema Jamali, an assistant director of child welfare at the time, said the quiet part out loud to reporters. She said, "The baby was given away the same way as a gift. It was given like a car, laptop, or motorcycle by an entertainment show."
The baby was given like a car, laptop, or motorcycle. It's an insult to the baby and the parents.
It is perhaps the most surreal, uncomfortable moment in broadcast history, a complete collision of genuine charity, religious programming, and the mechanical, applause-driven structure of a game show giveaway. The machinery of television took the profound, quiet, and deeply intimate process of adoption, completely stripped it of its privacy and dignity, and turned a human infant into content. It turned a child into a moment to be clapped for, right before the network cut to the next commercial break. A trapeze act, a wire walk, a survival show. These are all promises the audience can see with its own eyes. The performers are in physical danger, and the entire emotional engine of the show is the audience doing the silent arithmetic on that risk. We watch to see if they will fall, but what happens when the demand for the perfect camera angle, the relentless pursuit of visual scale, overwrites the fundamental laws of aviation safety? In March 2015, a massive French reality show called Dropped was filming in the remote, rugged mountains of Villa Castelli, Argentina. The network TF1 had assembled a truly spectacular cast. These were not just reality stars, they were beloved national heroes. The cast included Camille Muffat, a 25-year-old Olympic gold medalist swimmer.
Swimmer Camille Muffat won gold at the Olympic Games in London in 2012 for her 400-meter freestyle.
Alexis Vastine, a 28-year-old Olympic boxer, and Florence Artaud, a 57-year-old champion sailor who had conquered some of the most dangerous oceans on Earth. The premise of the show was extreme survival. The producers would blindfold these elite athletes, load them into helicopters, fly them deep into hostile, isolated environments, and drop them out to film their desperate efforts to survive and navigate back to civilization. To make a show like that work, to make it visually stunning for the audience at home, you need dynamic shots. You need the viewer to feel the terrifying scale of the isolation. You need sweeping, aerial footage.
Shocking footage has emerged of the helicopter crash.
On the afternoon of March 9th, 2 helicopters took off together from a dirt field carrying 10 people in total. As they climbed into the clear blue sky, the lower helicopter began to ascend at a higher rate than the one above it. They were flying in tight formation, much too tight. They were maneuvering aggressively, trying to get the perfect sweeping shot of each other for the opening. Montage at roughly 300 feet in the air, the rotors of the 2 helicopters collided. There is amateur footage of the crash, filmed from the ground by onlookers. It is incredibly quick, and it is absolutely devastating. A puff of smoke, a sickening crack, and both helicopters plummeted from the sky, twisting violently before impacting the earth in massive fireballs. All 10 people on board were killed instantly. The 2 Argentine pilots, the 5 members of the French production crew, and 3 of France's greatest athletes gone in seconds.
Shocking footage has emerged of the helicopter crash in Argentina, which killed 10 people, including 3 prominent French athletes. This video, shot by a local radio station, captures the exact moment of the mid-air collision, which caused both helicopters to lose control.
The subsequent investigation pointed heavily to the immense pressure of the filming environment. The pilots were operating in incredibly close proximity, their attention fatally split between the complex mechanics of flying and the relentless demands of the camera crew for dynamic cinematic visuals. The show obviously never aired, it couldn't. These were people who had dedicated their entire lives to surviving the absolute extremes of human endurance, surviving the ocean, surviving the Olympic boxing ring, and they were not killed by the wilderness, they were killed by the logistics of a reality TV production. The cost of a breathtaking establishing shot was 10 human lives. It is the ultimate, tragic realization that gravity simply does not care about your production schedule.
He destroyed her. I mean, how much havoc can one monster create on this earth?
I want to end here, at the absolute bottom of the iceberg. Because this is the moment the television machinery didn't just fail to protect its cast. It is the moment the machine actively, unwittingly amplified a monster, packaging him as entertainment, while a real-world nightmare unfolded off camera.
Running to his hotel room, he looks panicked and in a rush.
In 2009, the VH1 network in the United States was the undisputed king of trashy, highly addictive reality dating shows. One of their flagship programs that summer was Megan Wants a Millionaire. The premise was simple. A former reality star named Megan Hauserman was placed in a mansion, and she dated a group of wealthy, eccentric men to see who could provide her with the best, most lavish lifestyle.
These 17 unique millionaires answered the call, ready to take their best shot. No, Megan, no!
One of the frontrunners of the season was a 32-year-old real estate developer and investment banker named Ryan Jenkins. He was handsome, he was wealthy, he was charming, and the producers absolutely loved him. In the editing room, he was framed as the smooth talker, the suave operator. He made it all the way to the finale. He was so good on camera that VH1 immediately cast him in a second reality show, I Love Money 3, which he actually ended up winning.
Ryan, please come here.
Excuse me, guys. It's good of you to choose me first.
Megan Wants a Millionaire premiered to the public in August 2009. But while millions of Americans were sitting in their living rooms eating dinner and watching Ryan Jenkins smile and charm the cameras in primetime, police in Buena Park, California were making a horrifying discovery. They found a blood-soaked suitcase thrown into a dumpster. Inside the suitcase was the mutilated body of a 28-year-old model named Jasmine Fiore. She had been brutally beaten and strangled. Her teeth had been forcibly removed. Her fingers had been cut off at the joints to prevent law enforcement from identifying her body. The man who did it, the man who had married Jasmine Fiore in a quick Las Vegas wedding just months prior, was the same man currently smiling on VH1.
He stole everything from her, you know? He destroyed her. I mean, how much havoc can one monster create on this earth?
By the time the police identified the body using the serial numbers on her breast implants, Jenkins was already running. A massive, frantic international manhunt was launched, and suddenly the VH1 network was trapped in a living, unprecedented broadcast nightmare. They had a brutal murderer, an active, fleeing, dangerous fugitive, airing on their network as a romantic, desirable prospect. The TV vetting machine had failed completely and utterly. Jenkins had a prior criminal record for domestic violence in Canada that the background check company had somehow missed or ignored in their rush to cast a compelling character. VH1 immediately panicked. They pulled Megan Wants a Millionaire off the air after only 3 episodes. They scrambled to permanently scrub Jenkins from I Love Money 3, cancelling the season entirely so he would not be seen winning the grand prize money. Days later, as the manhunt closed in on him, Ryan Jenkins was found dead in an isolated motel room in Hope, British Columbia.
On August 23rd, when no one from the room checked out, Jenkins was discovered to have taken his own life.
He had taken his own life, hanging himself with a belt to avoid facing justice for what he did to Jasmine.
Ryan Jenkins is an animal. What he has done to Jasmine is...
Think about what the audience was doing in those first few weeks of August 2009. They were watching a man play a character. They were laughing at his jokes on the couch, rooting for or against him, analyzing his dating strategy. The TV format did exactly what it always does, and what it is perfectly designed to do. It flattened a complex human being into a 2-dimensional, easily digestible character for our evening entertainment. But there was a monster in the footage, and the camera didn't see him. The producers didn't see him. The editors didn't see him. The machinery just saw content. The reality show promises us a safe, controlled look at extreme human behavior. We watch it because we believe the people on screen have been checked, that they belong in the artificial box of the TV set. But the truth, the dark, incredibly uncomfortable truth at the very bottom of it all, is that the camera doesn't know who is standing in front of it. It has no morality. It just records. It films the join between the before and the after, and it leaves the meaning to us. Hold on to that thought the next time you watch a screen, the next time you watch ordinary people placed in an artificial pressure cooker. The camera was supposed to just watch. It never just watches.